3 months ago, I came into my office at the church, and I had 2 messages on the phone and 1 written message. And the written message was that someone who hadn't been showing up on Sundays for about a month wanted me to call them. So I called them, and they told me that they were not going to be coming back to the church. I asked them why. They said, well, we shouldn't be taking care of others. We shouldn't be spending money outside of the church if we can't take care of our own. And I'm not really thinking this is the direction the church should go. And I said, well, when was a time that we were doing that? When was the time the church was doing that? And she goes, well, do you remember the time we got the air conditioning put in and the new carpet? That was it. And I thought,
wrong church.
God bless you. Wrong church.
Wow.
And then on the voicemail, there were 2 other messages from one person who said, hi, I won't be returning to Westside, and another person saying, hey, did you know that so-and-so is not returning to Westside? So that was an interesting day. And I remember walking out of the church and being the last one to leave the office that day, and I was locking up, and we have a really cool group of Samoan brothers and sisters that every Saturday come and do all the lawn maintenance. And about a week before this, they had come with chainsaws, and we have all these ficus trees surrounding the church. And about 5 months ago, you literally, driving by the church, you couldn't even see the building, the church building. All you could see was this overgrown, ficus-ridden, it was like kind of something underneath there. What is that? You know, they had like hacked these trees to virtually nubs. And I walked out of the church that day after those phone messages with just a mustard seed of faith, like, all right, God, this is part of it. This is refocusing. This is what we're up to. And looked around and noticed the trees, like for the first time, really noticed. And it just sank in that God was doing a great pruning, a great cutting back at Westside, and in myself as well. And so I brought some pruning shears here, you know, the funny thing about pruning, I'm not a horticulturalist, but the funny thing about pruning that I do understand is that you don't always prune. There's a season for pruning. And it's comforting because pruning is a very odd thing. What other living thing do you have to cut a major chunk out of it for its own health in the long run? And so it's a very odd thing. And so it's comforting to know that this is a season. Refocusing is a distinct season. And while that this is a painful process, it's not always going to be that, because the pruning leads to fruit. It leads for that tree to be able to produce fruit. And so I think that understanding of seeing those trees pruned, it reminds me that this is for the sake of the people of God producing good fruit in their life. And that is something that is every person who shows up to a church should get to experience that. That's what they should, an experience with God should be able for them to see, wow, God's goodness is producing fruit in my life because of Him. You know, I think one of the things that has been pruned back is, I think a church will naturally grow. I think churches do grow, but they grow themselves into a pattern, like a tree, where that's it. And the light can't get into certain places, and it just takes this shape and it grows itself out. And so I think for where Westside's at right now and where refocusing fits in, it's really cutting out some places so light can get into new parts of the body, and things can begin to grow that I don't really know how they're going to grow. And I'm excited to know that, and this is also connected a little bit with my gifting and where God has met me. I'm not so sure I want to know exactly how. I'm so thankful, Donnie, for you, buddy. You know, that you're that builder, and it's good to know, like, yeah, you're confident in that, because part of where God has met me is he's saying, you know, like, I'm going to take over at that point. You cut the space so my light can get in and so I can meet people. You get rid of the maintenance, legalistic, and inward focusedness. You cut that out. You remove that. You don't give people that to lean on, and you clarify for them what the kingdom is, and I will move in them. And they'll get it. They'll get it. And I'm seeing that happen, and it's just amazing to step back and say, wow, God, you are meeting people. It's because your light has room to get into their lives, and it's really helping me clarify my role as a pastor. Like, what am I to do for people? And I think one of the things is to be rigorous about being rigorously against the things that aren't serving them, and cutting those out, and being okay about that, and being confident that I'm helping them produce fruit. Personally, I'm excited that through all this, and this is my personal metaphor, I'm realizing that I'm really interested in the way God's Spirit talks to people, and that is a very much an evangelistic and mission tool for me, that I'm interested in meeting people with the way God is growing them in an organic way. And that's how I met God, and so I'm interested in how I can be that in a missional way for people. I can meet people who are not familiar with the church, and I can talk about how God's growing them, and how the light of God has hit them, and help them prune back and do some things in an organic way that kind of affirms again the way God met me. So I think refocusing has helped in terms of my understanding of my role in the body, and also my personal DNA, like how I'm wired and why God has done what he's done in me.